These glowing golden eyes are one of Elden Ring's last mechanic that we know pretty much nothing about, and with the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC on its way, it would be a shame to leave it unexplained. There's a bunch of theories trying to explain what turns out to be the rarest occurrence in Elden Ring, but as far as reliable information goes, we basically have zero. Until today. What we knew so far is that Golden Eyes is a special buff enemies can spawn with that will make them drop 5 times the amount of runes they usually would. In the case of late game enemies or bosses, that can mean big numbers. Contrary to what you might find online, Golden Eyes do not increase the damage an enemy deals. That was simply a skill issue. It's also not more likely to happen at night or during Golden Rain, it's much simpler than that. To understand the inner workings of this mechanic, we have to deep dive into Elden Ring spaghetti code, where we can find the so-called soul drop up function. For the average viewer, this means that every time you rest or travel, there's a 0.5% chance for normal and a 1% chance for bigger and tougher enemies to spawn with Golden Eyes. For the fellow nerds, pause here. In order to find out which enemies can have Golden Eyes and which ones can't, I simply set the Feversoul chance to 100% and walked around the lands between for a little bit. As you would expect, NPCs, bosses and boss minions, enemies with no eyes or heads, dragons, and most of the wildlife can't have them either. Mini-bosses that appear as normal enemies, however, can, such as the Black Knife and Landel. For some weird reason, undead mariners, tree spirits and scions can have them, and so can flowers, hands, and my personal favorite, the Golden Eyed Slug. But really, hands? Not all enemies like to show off though, like the small envoys, who can get them, but they have no eyes, so you cannot really see it. Pumpkin heads are ashamed and just hide them below the helmet. I don't even know what fungal pots are supposed to be, and both worm faces and tree avatars can have them, but it's inside their neck. And it doesn't help that even just seeing 2 golden-eyed enemies at once is about as likely as getting 5 out of 6 in the lottery or you becoming a member. As I said in the beginning, golden eyes are a special effect, so by coding it onto any given enemy, I can force them to spawn with golden eyes no matter what. This is where things get crazy. In this version of Elden Ring, every enemy has golden eyes, no matter if it's technically possible or not, if it makes sense or not. It just works. So let me show you some of my personal highlights. Every horse now has golden eyes, including Chad. Dragonlord has 4 golden eyes, Gargoyles only have 1 golden eye, Elden Beast just looks very goofy, Melina is an absolute nightmare, Torrent, are you alright, buddy? Get this man away from me! The Fell Twins turn into a horror game, and lastly, do I even need to say how litty he looks? Fun fact, bosses consisting of 2 entities, such as the final boss, get the Golden Eyes bonus twice, meaning in total you get 10 times the amount of runes at the end, which combined with the max rune gain setup from last video, turns into an unbelievable amount of runes.